Good evening, and we'll bring this meeting to order, and welcome to the August 17th work session of the Rutherford County School Board. Leading our pledge tonight will be Mr. Jim Estes.
I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Thank you, Mr. Estes. We'll do a moment of silence tomorrow night. Okay. And again, welcome everybody. A little different work session date, usually on Tuesday, but we're on Wednesday this time. So, any questions regarding the agenda? And we'll meet again tomorrow evening at the same time. Pretty long consent agenda. Questions or discussions regarding that? As far as transportation, Mr. Snell, that puts us down the list, on the second list.
Where are we on the second list?
Yes, sir.
Number 19, that's
Okay. I talked to Mr. Tackett, and the deadline for fall sports, I believe, has passed.
Yes, what we're running into is some were here, but the time between our board meetings and the fingerprints and that sort of stuff.
Yes,
Some of them are working way ahead, and I like that.
yes, sir.
The basketball and baseball, and some of those are working way ahead.
Yes, sir. Okay, I don't hear any questions, Mr. Odom. We'll move to number 7. I think you have.
I do have one introduction tonight because they have scheduled a parent meeting tomorrow night, open house. Miss Tiffany Dukes, will you stand up, Miss Dukes? She comes to us from, as a principal in Knoxville, called up to kind of check on her background and all, and they did not want to lose her, which was a very good sign. She did quite a bit of work for some of the courses through UT and teaching the other principals in Knoxville. So her supervisor over the principals and all had very, very good things to say about her. And I'm hearing good things from your teachers and staff at Roy Waldron, too. So we're glad to have you in Rutherford County. Knoxville's loss is Rutherford County's gain.
It's just, Roy Waldron has been an excellent fit for me. Excellent fit.
As far as the new addition, has all of the organization, has that come together?
Quickly, and whenever something comes up, if I have questions, I can call the site manager, and he calls right back, or he gets right over to the school. So.
When the board decided to renovate Roy Waldron, we did a tour through Roy Waldron with county commissioners and the county mayor, and we had little rooms that were out of old locker room space for intervention opportunities. I trust we don't have those issues anymore.
Not at all. We have, the way that it's set up, we have 4 intervention rooms that were, one room was turned into 4 intervention rooms. So that gives us rooms to do small group instruction and to have our cheer groups meet in those rooms. So, and also for our ESL teachers to meet as well. So they have been a huge help already.
Again, welcome. We're pleased that you decided to join our family here, so thank you. Well, that would be board members, so, okay. Again,
Being by yourself, you get questioned more than the large group.
Thank you.
Thank you. Okay, and then everybody else, the other
Tomorrow
new
night?
faces will be here tomorrow night. Okay, number 8.
Number 8's under facilities, the Energy Efficient School Initiative Loan Agreement for Automated Control Systems, and you remember us talking about this earlier. But on July 19, 2016, on item C under Facilities, Engineering, and Construction, it brought an agreement to the board with the EESI for a loan of $2,137,047 for automated control system on HVAC units in 19 of our schools and 2 lighting projects. The motion stated that the administrative interest rate was 0.75%. It has since been learned that any loan over $1 million from Energy Efficient School Initiative is 1%. Therefore, the Engineering and Construction Department would like to recommend increasing the 0.75% to a full 1% administrative interest on this loan. Recommend approval. The motion is to approve increasing the administrative interest rate from 0.75% to a full 1% on this EESI loan of $2,137,047 for automated control systems as presented. We actually had this item for health and ed, and when we, in between the time that y'all saw it, we learned that it was going to be the 1%, so we pulled it from their agenda. But they are aware that we're coming back with this at the commission.
The savings from this well covers the cost here. How much savings are we projecting?
I can't recall exactly how much, but I know that we have a payback from 0.7 to 3 years, so it will.
It's not like a 4-year average payback.
Yes. So if you got 4 into that, that's $500,000 a year.
We have this in the budget as a 4-year payback through the note.
These are controls where you can turn it off at night, weekends, optimized, very similar to what you might have at home if you have a programmable thermostat. This is controlled through our people here at the central office.
That's right, and I know that you probably received an email from Sandy recently stating that we paid $900 and something thousand this past year on our energy savings. So over the last 7 or 8 years, we had a very difficult time tracking it through the first things we've done as we changed out those light fixtures, put in sensors, and did water saving unit. But now we're at the point in the program has developed far enough for us to start really measuring and verifying how much our savings are. So we've made a lot of progress.
Okay, B.
B contains 4 projects that we're interested in. This is the architectural fees for Rockville High School, Laverne and Smyrna High School restrooms and concessions, and Rocky Fork 2-story elementary school. At the request of Rutherford County Schools Engineering and Construction Department, Binkley Garcia Architecture has submitted proposals for 4 projects. These proposals include Rockville High at an estimated fee of $1,962,000, Laverne and Smyrna High School restrooms and concessions at a combined fee of $15,000, and the Rocky Fork 2-story elementary school at a fee of $1,204,000. Engineering would like to get these projects ready to bid by March of 2017 so we can proceed with construction as early as April. This will give us the greatest opportunity for the best price since most contractors will be looking for and bidding their 2017-2018 workload. Also, this means that all of the projects will need to be through the full commission and funding approved by April 2017. The commission is aware of all of these projects because they have been on our building plan for several years now. Recommend approval of the motion to approve architectural fees for the above 4 reference projects as presented. We're doing curriculum design things for Rockville High. CTE is working on that now about program offerings, that sort of thing. So we're even from this side, building in the curriculum piece. This is the design, but when we meet with the architecture, we need a lot of the curriculum needs nailed down so that they can do the construction to match, especially in career and technical education areas. So, and we're changing course to two-story on several things. We've got some other, where John Coleman's two-story, the Roy Waldron addition was two-story. We really haven't built a two-story elementary as such that's full scale like we plan to do at Rocky Fork. So that's somewhat different for us too.
Maybe some questions come up between now and tomorrow night. C.
C is the Rocky Fork Middle School contract and value engineering review. As discussed in a previous board meeting, after the bid opening on Rocky Fork Middle School, the engineering and construction department has been working on value engineering issues to lower the cost of the new middle school. R.G. Anderson Construction was the lowest and best bidder and awarded a transitional contract of $10 million so they could mobilize and get Rocky Fork started due to the essence of time. The base bid was $33,987,000. Alternate number 1, LED lighting, was taken at a cost of $300,000. Alternate number 2, epoxy floor coating, at a credit of $70,000, was taken, bringing the total amended contract with R.G. Anderson to $34,217,000. The value engineering credit of $1,549,180.12 for site items such as storm drainage systems is agreed upon with all parties and will be credited back to Rutherford County Board of Education through deductive change order number 1, bringing the total contract value to $32,667,819.88. Recommend approval. The motion is to approve the amended contract amount of $34,217,000 and deductive change order number 1 in the amount of $1,549,180.12 with R.G. Anderson Construction for Rocky Fork Middle School, bringing the corrected contract amount to $32,667,819.88. And if you'd like to know some of the value engineering, some of the things, Mr. Clardy can certainly update you on that. He is planning a presentation tomorrow night, which is one here to go over all of our construction things, to give you all that, the brief again. But if you'd like to hear some of that tonight, he can fill you in on it.
I think we're going to wait till tomorrow night.
Well, let's see, where do you occur on the agenda? It may be after this motion. Tomorrow night, where's your presentation?
Down at the end of this.
Yeah, that's what I was thinking. So his presentation actually comes before this motion.
Just give you a little bit of a highlight.
Okay.
We went through the entire set of plans and looked for opportunity to save money. And mainly, there's no curriculum changes, no instructional needs have been eliminated or anything like that. But we have isolated several things on the site that could be changed. We're showing some on their retention and detention and water management. We had 4 different areas that were draining to 4 different small ponds. So, and they were also ecological ponds where they had plantings and all those kinds of things. So we eliminated some of those because they weren't required in the city of Smyrna. And we saved a bunch of money on that, getting rid of the plants, digging, and increased the size of the main retention pond several cubic feet. Then also we were able to eliminate some underground drainage and put it on top of the ground, and thus getting rid of some very, very large pipe. Also, there's some areas of some road extensions that went all the way to the property line that we eliminated, which was quite a bit of savings. And then there's one issue where we had a on the elementary site, on the pad and everything. We eliminated that and just let them pile that up because we're gonna start immediately with the new school, so there's no use in spreading it out and having to push it all back to get in there to go to work. So, there's just, multiple issues like that. We did go ahead and take out the water line extension so that we can move it into the elementary school when we get to build that, which will not interfere with our middle school. So there's several little things like that we took out. But anyway, we managed to get 1.5 million or better out of that plan. So we were, as you will recall, our building cost estimate was right on the money, but our site estimate was off by about $5.5 million. And so, take this out, we're off by $4 million. And a lot of that has to do with the inflation due to all of the site companies that are capable of managing this size of a 75-acre site and doing it correctly and being financially stable enough to handle that. They're very busy at this point, so it ran the cost up on them.
Thank you, Mr. Clardy.
His other items will be updates on projects we already approved, started, that sort of thing. So it's nothing new, but I want him to tell you about the new things before you have to vote on that one. D is on-site concrete and geotechnical inspection services. Mr. Ed Seiler has submitted a proposal for on-site concrete and geotechnical testing at a rate of $30 per hour for 2 new buildings and additions. This contract would run for a period of 2 years at this rate and with 1 renewal period of 2 years. Mr. Seiler has been doing inspections for Rutherford County schools now for many years and has always done an excellent job. This fee includes administrative costs, report preparation, fax distribution, and postage. Also, engineering and construction would like to set the on-site concrete and geotechnical testing budget for Rocky Fork Middle School at an approximate value of $63,360. Recommend approval. The motion is to approve Mr. Ed Seiler at a fee of $30 per hour and set a budget of $63,360 for Rocky Fork Middle School concrete and geotechnical testing as presented.
Questions? E.
E is structural steel inspection services for Rocky Fork Middle School. Mr. Billy Melton has submitted a contract for structural steel testing at a rate of $55 per hour for new buildings and additions. This contract would run for a period of 2 years at this rate with 1 renewal period of 2 years. Mr. Melton has been doing inspections for Rutherford County schools now for several years and has always done an excellent job. This fee includes administrative costs, report preparation, fax distribution, and postage. Also, engineering and construction would like to set the structural steel testing budget for Rocky Fork Middle School at an approximate value of $20,020. Recommend approval. The motion is to approve Mr. Billy Melton at a fee of $55 per hour and set a budget of $20,020 for Rocky Fork Middle School structural steel testing as presented.
A lot of preparation goes into building a new school. Mr. Clardy?
The success of your foundations and compaction and all those types of things that are involved. So that's the reason that we have a inspector there constantly with that stuff, keeping an eye on it.
Yes, sir.
I didn't really know Mr. Miller, but I knew Mr. Seiler anyway, and it's in your attachment. He also does work for Williamson County and has for us for both years. So both of us are building quite a few schools, so He has a lot of experience in building schools.
F.
This is a request for proposed light emitting diode, LED, lighting changeout. Rutherford County Schools Engineering and Construction Department has been investigating the possibility of changing the existing lighting in all of our school buildings to LED lighting. The scope of this project would cost approximately $6.5 to $7 million with a yearly savings on electricity of about $1 million a year. These savings mean a 6 to 7 year payback period. Assistant Superintendent Clardy has headed up a committee consisting of Director of Schools Don Odom, School Board Member Terry Hodge, Director of Maintenance Kenneth Curley, Energy Manager Jeff Stacy, Assistant Superintendent Jeff Sandvig, and Lead Electrician Mike Walls to develop a request for proposal, RFP, to solicit a proposal from a contractor with adequate experience, expertise, and appropriate pricing for the scope of the project. The RFP is fully developed and ready to go out for pricing. A copy is attached under the tab section of the board's review. Funding for the project would come from TVA rebates, an EESI loan, and county borrowing. From the proposals are received and final prices solidified, engineering will bring back this proposal back to the board for approval and permission to proceed to the county commission subcommittees and full commission approval. Recommend approval of the motion to approve the RFP advertisement and solicitation for Rutherford County Schools LED lighting changeout as presented. I mentioned this, that we would come forward with this in the future to Budget and Finance, I guess it was, the other night at the commission. And Mr. Jordan, Will Jordan, chairs it, and he said he can remember when we did, of course, our lighting that we did with fluorescent lights and that sort of thing. We're about 9 to 10 years down the road on that. And he said he could see where it might be time to take a look at it. Of course, one of the things that's not included, the payback may come quicker, because one of the things that's not considered in this calculation is simply electricity savings, is what we're doing here. But now that we're 9 to 10 years out, with the lighting we replaced years ago, look at the number of ballasts that are now going out for us. So Mr. Carter can tell you, and our lead electrician here spoke of it too, how many now, after 9 to 10 years, you're replacing ballast. Well, if you change out the fixture and go to the LED, you're going to eliminate for a number of years also having to go back in and change those ballast out too. So your savings are not just going to be your electrical savings, it will be the savings on the hardware piece that's tied to that. So just kind of point that out to you. But this is just the request for proposal. We'll have to bring you back whomever we think might be the best bidder in this case.
I remember when the last lighting change occurred, the brightness change was, the effectiveness of the lighting was dramatic. I assume that with the LED, it'll be the same thing, so.
Look up
Yeah.
at your ceiling.
Yeah.
That was changed.
And the entire lighting in this building will be changed out over next door also within this proposal. The way I see this proposal is that we can, choose one or a couple different energy companies or electrical companies to come in and make a presentation at the time we get ready to, after we accept them, and the entire committee will go through and grade these. Within the proposal, there's a sheet in here to grade every one of them. So, and then we're taking unit prices. There's approximately 70,000 fixtures in the school system. And once we do choose someone, then we will give them the opportunity to go into our schools and just verify how many fixtures of each kind they've got to replace, and then we'll take that unit price and price those fixtures out. We thought that would be much easier than going through and just taking a bunch of abstract prices from everyone and then trying to figure out what we had. So apples to apples, I believe Well, if I could add, another problem we're running into now is finding parts, for a lot of these fixtures and, 'cause a lot of the parts aren't being made, so, as far as what supply we had's gone, so I think that's posing some problems also.
Is this,
Especially true of exit lights and all we run into.
is this just inside lighting? Inside building?
The building exterior lighting, that type of stuff. So the entire system should be upgraded. We're looking at approximately $80,000 to $90,000 a month savings once we get all of those put in. That's what we're predicting.
Franklin Special School issues better right now, aren't they? Over in Williamson County.
All right. And I guess G, we will,
That's tomorrow night.
that's tomorrow night. So, Number 9, A.
Number 9 is financial matters. A is a cell phone stipend. Recommend approval of motion to approve for Leslie Duke, Human Resources, to receive a monthly cell phone stipend due to the accelerated use of her personal cell phone for office use. Really interesting. I talked today about, do you want to tell them about how many people y'all have been through? And she's one of the main ones that processes, and the principals call her when somebody leaves and they need to do a replacement. You know, give them the figure
Ms.
you
Duke
gave
is our
me.
certified employment analyst, so she works with certified employees in hiring teachers primarily. And I told Mr. Odom today, I believe we have capped 500 new certified hires for this school year, which is significantly higher than it has been in the past, probably coupled by another 200 classified employees that we have hired. And that doesn't include all the transfers from school to school that have taken place throughout the summer. So Leslie is a very popular person throughout the year, but especially during those peak months when there's a lot of movement going on and the principal wants to find her immediately to get an answer. And so I come forward with this request.
Not many HR departments would process 700 a year, so. There's a lot of training going on. I see it up here, lots of meetings and training.
B.
B is the 2016-17 cafeteria fund budget. The evening that Mr. Sandvig presented the 2016-17 cafeteria fund budget, our focus was on the general purpose school and capital project fund budgets. We spend very little time on the cafeteria fund budget, Fund 143. As a reminder, the funding for our cafeteria comes from meal payments, federal funds, and less than $200,000 from the state. No local tax revenues are used. The 2016-17 cafeteria fund budget presented that night included a new field manager, a training manager, and a .8312 hourly level increase for the clerk who handles the free reduced program and other clerical duties. When another staff member left, we were able to combine the duties of 2 clerical positions and eliminated the other position. The 2 new positions were included in the budget because the state did their annual review of the school nutrition program last year. The recommendation included a 3rd field manager and that we beef up our training program by adding a training manager in order to provide the 12 to 16 hours of training that is now required every year for every school nutrition employee. The staffing guidelines and training requirements come from Healthy Hunger Free Kids Act of 2010, which phased in through the year 2022. So it's 3 field managers, elementary, middle, and high, will work out of a school. Recommend approval of the motion to approve posting the new field manager position and a training manager position, and to approve a level increase for the free reduced clerk as presented. I contacted Mr. Sandvig, and I said, now we're adding additional positions. Give me some kind of justification or what we're doing here. So you have a copy of this information received today. May read it tomorrow night. The total number of meals Rutherford County schools prepared and served last year were 6,027,109 meals. That's a lot of meals. So you can see kind of what we're going through. But, you know, I think of these kids that go home and say, Mama, nobody's eating at school. Well, 6 million did. So, Mr. Evans may include this in some of their follow-up information to parents also. They're interesting figures.
And again, the state is the one that recommended these additional positions, correct?
We have lots of turnover on cafeteria workers because they tend to be part-time. We hire so many to serve lunch. That's when your rush period is. And so when you have a larger than normal number of part-time employees, there's a much more turnover rate. And so you're talking about training continually. It just goes on all year, really.
Which mirrors probably the traditional restaurant experience
think
too, so either fast food or, so. C,
C is the 2016-2017 capital projects budgets. There are two carryover projects from the 2015-16 capital projects budget, Fund 177, which were not complete as of June 30, 2016. They are the Barfield School roofing at $271,436 and the Laverne High running track at $30,702 for a total of $302,138. Each year, the outstanding purchase orders for these incomplete projects are liquidated on June 30. Then an amendment must be approved to take the leftover funds from these projects out to the fund balance committed for capital projects in order to be rebudgeted these projects so they can be finished. The opening fund balance for this fund is $2,113,711 and will be $1,811,573 after the amendment. Recommend approval. The motion to amend is $302,138 from the Fund 177 account number 34685, Committee for Capital Projects, and to increase the budget for the Maintenance and Repair Service 91300-335 by $302,138 in order to rebudget the incomplete 2015-16 project so they can be finished. And you're familiar with this. It's kind of an annual thing. Anything that's not liquidated, cleared by June 30th, the county commission has to approve again. So this is one of those traditional things, no new monies, anything. It's just things we bid last year did not get completed, so just that accounting procedure we have to go through. That's what this is.
Number 10.
This was a discussion, I think, that Mr. Holliday requested. I don't know what you want to do.
Do that tonight, or do you want to save it for tomorrow night?
I think it may be appropriate tonight. I had members of the community contact me and inquire about the Tennessee State Department of Education's participation in developing social and emotional standards as part of the curriculum standards. And it's a pilot program, as I've come to understand it, that does not have full participation, but around 8 states that have opted in to this program. At first, our inquiries to the Department of Education were met with a lot of blank stares and lack of information. Eventually, the Department of Education put out a written statement, and in that written statement, one of the things that they expressed was that this would be developed by persons in Tennessee, by representatives from the Department of Education, as well as education professionals and others. And it still is troubling in its initial understanding. When members of the community see social and emotional standards, they are not interpreting this as a positive addition to education standards. They are interpreting this as a intrusive effort and unwelcome. Mr. Odom and I had a conversation about this, and he shared with me that social and emotional standards could be that a family is going through a divorce, And does that affect that student's performance on a day-to-day basis? Well, it certainly does. And how we respond to that, and by what standards we would interpret that, or possibly a death in the immediate family. Does that affect a student's performance? Certainly it does. Those kind of things are social and emotional standards. But is this a program that is going to go beyond that? Is this a program, because it is spanning across 8 states, that is moving toward another national perspective? And as our board has led in so many ways in the state of Tennessee, I thought it was appropriate for our board to be aware of this, discuss it, and quite possibly express, for my part, it would be a time to express concern to the State Department of Education for participation in such a program. I'll even go so far, and I hope that other board members will express their perspective on this, but I think that social and emotional standards for our students, from my perspective on this, and I'm open to education professionals informing me otherwise, I think that these are local issues. I think that these are things that express the values and the culture in our individual communities. And as such, the social and emotional standards in Murfreesboro, in Rutherford County, are not the same as they are in California or Maine or Seattle or even Kentucky. So I find this to be an area of concern, and something that we, at the very least, should be very, very aware of and paying attention to. I ask that it be put on the agenda.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. I think I'd mentioned to you earlier that I would like to wait and speak about this a little bit more in depth tomorrow. I've spent, and I too have had a tremendous number of parents and constituents that have reached out to me and expressed concern about this. And I have concerns on a number of different levels that I do want to share with the board. I attended a legislative session, committee meeting today of the representatives of the Education Committee and this was on the agenda. So I had an opportunity to listen to the state testify about it, as well as hear some of our legislators ask questions as well. But I'd like to have the time this evening, after we get done with our work session, to kind of pull my notes together and go through it all so that I can give you perhaps more of an educated perspective from both or all of the sides kind of surrounding this issue. I think there are some very, very legitimate concerns being expressed out there from parents and from legislators, and I will certainly concur with fellow board member Mr. Holliday that it is something that we as a board, I do think, need to discuss and explore in more depth. So if I may, I'd like to request that I might have that time tomorrow to do a little deeper presentation.
Yes, ma'am.
Thank you.
Any other comments? I would bet that the state wished they had, the corrective term that they used was competencies. I
I
bet
hear
they
that
wish-
may be the new.
I bet they wish they had used that term rather than standards from the get-go. So
Well, and if I may, they actually are. That's one of the things that the state is coming back with, is they're saying they are not calling them standards, that they are referring to these as competencies. So where that came from in that Chalkbeat article that they used that terminology standards, I'm not sure, or I'm not sure if it changed maybe in between all the communications that have gone back and forth with this. It could go either way. But I think it's a semantics game, and yeah, I definitely think there are concerns that we need to talk about.
yes, okay, thank you. Anybody else? Well, again, Ms. Moore, you'll be invited to share some more thoughts tomorrow evening.
Thank you.
Number 11.
Number 11, and these are for information only, and the Maintenance Department purchased from TCPN, contract R-15505, a Dakin air-cooled scroll chiller from Dakin Applied for Smyrna Elementary at a cost of $117,852 to be funded through capital projects. And we had to treat this as an emergency purchase. If you remember, Smyrna Elementary chiller was on our list to be changed out this year. It died about just right before school started. And so it didn't make a lot of, we literally had to lease one and bring it on site on a trailer until this new one could arrive and replace it. But the new one is there and it's replaced right now, right? So what we had planned to do later in the year occurred with the start of school. Not unusual with as many schools we have for these things to go out when they start getting stressed at the start of school. And the second one, yeah,
Ms.
go ahead.
Well, and if I may, I've got a question while we're on the subject of coolers. My understanding, because I got an email, I guess, from a parent the other day that there was an issue with the air conditioning at Laverne High, and I'm just curious if that got resolved or what the actual story there was.
I don't specifically remember that one because there's been so many.
I understand.
But we have addressed everything that we possibly could. We had people working overtime all weekend on Saturday and Sunday, all over the county. So we haven't had any complaints over the last couple of days or big issues, so I'm pretty sure that we got that addressed.
And I felt sure that you had. I know you guys are always on it, so we appreciate that. But since it was a parent that I knew that had reached out about it, I just wanted to be sure that, thank you.
We usually respond to those immediately, particularly if it's from a board member.
Thank you,
They
Mr. Clardy.
prioritize too. As best I can remember, the Laverne, some of that was hallway.
Was.
And so we prioritized first classrooms, but I mean, when we got some of the complaints this weekend, I was working through it. We had people working in schools to try to get it done, but they do prioritize.
Yeah, I recall that now. We went down there immediately and walked the hallways. We always take a thermometer with us. We check the output at the unit, and we did have some that were not working properly, and we got those working. And if you will, I don't know if you'll recall or not, but a few years ago, we went through those classrooms and installed a bunch of the original unit ventilators that were in those rooms with new ones. We replaced them and spent, a couple $100,000 on them and Smyrna High School.
I also got that email and interacted. Mr. Clardy sent me back, and I passed on to the father there of that situation that we thought we had addressed it. He told me that his student confirmed it, that his student was comfortable. So I had a little email exchange on that one as well.
Yeah, like I said, I had so many of them that it's
Yeah.
kind of tough to keep up with every room.
I was going to mention this in general discussion, but since we've talked about it, I visited a school also that you're aware of, Mr. Clardy, and about a hot room or several. And talking to Mr. Clardy, found out one of the cause and effect issues was that the custodial staff was not changing out the filters on a regular basis. And I think with our big buildings, and I'm looking at these huge chillers and just paid $100,000 plus, I really didn't think of the filters like I change out at my home every month. But in every school, we have to do this each month also. And I was surprised that that was causing us quite a few failures, especially in this heat wave. We've had, 60-plus days straight of 90-plus degrees, and that's got to be a tremendous strain on these on these facilities.
It is, what happened is those filters get dirty, and they're trying to still pull air through there. So once the filter gets so dirty that it clogs up, it pulls that dust and dirt into the fins of the radiator on those things, or the heat exchanger, and cuts the efficiency of that way down because it's insulated, and it can't expel or accept the heat or cool as it would if it was clear. So then those things the efficiency goes way, way down. And for a couple of years there, I did a little experiment where if any of my guys found one that was really dirty, they put it in a trash bag and brought it to me. And then I would go out and have a little talk with whoever's in charge of changing those things out. And that worked pretty good, and we seemed to have that under control pretty well because it got less and less of those issues. But now it's seeming to build back up and snowball on us again.
It's such a simple process to change those out to save these expensive units. So anything you can do to
Some of our earlier units, the actual filter was in the unit which hung above the ceiling. So, David Urey, which I had experience with, we had to then finally, they took those out and put them down at the ceiling level, which is kind of what you can see as you walk through now. But some of our older schools with the original equipment, the unit, it wasn't where a custodian could replace it. I mean, it was so maintenance was having to do it. It was a really task-oriented process.
I think the mechanical engineers got smarter as the years went by, and now when we have, usually in our newer schools, we have a unit that works for 2 rooms and a little mechanical closet. And all you have to do is open a little door on the unit, pull it out, slide another one back in, close the door, and go to the next room. So
Kinda like
things are
being at
much
home.
easier. We still have a few that are up, even on the roof, where you have to go up there in those larger units and pull a filter out and replace it, or maybe in a gym. But we have, over the years, we've added lift to our equipment. In the bigger schools, like the high schools and middle schools now, and even the elementary schools, we're buying a lift with the equipment and leaving it at the school. And we have 4 or 5 lifts that all they have to do, the schools that don't have those, can call us and we get them out to them immediately, where it's changing light bulbs in the gym or changing filters or whatever they need it for. We also have a couple trainings per year and train the lead custodian on lift operation to OSHA specifications, so that we're covered on those areas. Now, a lot of those, it's not as bad. I think we've kind of weeded those out, but some of the lead custodians didn't want to go up and be that high off the ground. And we even had a couple principals that came to the training so they could be trained in the lift, so they could go up and change light bulbs or whatever. But we tried to work with them any way we can to make their job easier to get that stuff done.
Okay, thank you, Mr. Clardy. Number 12, Ms. Barnes.
B, there's a B there. Let me
Oh,
catch
was
that.
there B? I missed it. Oh,
Yeah.
I'm sorry.
State Farm Insurance donation. The purchasing department would like to recognize State Farm Insurance again for their donation of furniture to various schools in our system. 6 schools in our district and growth positions were the recipients of filing cabinets, tables, and administrative chairs. Again, State Farm, we experienced last year, made several donations to us. So sent this out to everybody, and 6 more schools received some donations from State Farm.
Ms. Michaels, can we send a letter from the board, thank you note, if you will, to State Farm? Also, maybe during our presentation tomorrow night, possible during this item, that we could display their logo again like we did the last time. Matt, if that's possible. If that's okay with the board. Okay. Again, thank you to State Farm. They certainly have been more than a pencil partner with Rutherford County Schools, and we're grateful for their generosity and their commitment to helping us in every way they can. So again, big shout out to State Farm Insurance, which was, is a good-sized employer here in Rutherford County too. So again, thank you. Ms. Barnes, you're on deck.
We have had no meetings this summer, but we will meet next Thursday. I believe that's the 24th of August. So we'll report at the next meeting after that.
Okay, thank you. Mr. Hodge, anything as far as legislative?
No, sir.
Okay. Will there be anything tomorrow night?
I don't have anything.
Okay. It's about to fire up, pretty soon, I guess. Mr. Hodge, from the federal aspect.
We did get another Dear Colleague letter here in the school system. The Office of Civil Rights, as well as the Department of Education, continue to express their unfounded opinion that they are imposing without legislation to support it. And so we receive those letters, we look at those letters, and then we make the best decisions for our local school system here in Rutherford County. It is a challenging time. That one arrived July 26th, and they come 2 or 3 a month.
Of course, the secretary at the NSBA meeting said he was on duty till January, and that he would do his due diligence. So I think we could probably expect even more of these correspondences coming down the pike.
This Dear Colleague letter was mostly to do with special education requirements and was words of caution to systems that may not be providing everything that a special education student might need. I want to compliment our special education department, but also our legal staff because of the work that they do to ensure not only that we are providing exceptional educational opportunities for every student, no matter what their issues or challenges may be, but in addition to that, we're documenting it. And that documentation and carefully keeping the records, it is critically important for our success. More often than not, challenges come looking for a system that is not attentive to the details. And so the investment that this board has made in our most recent budget for additional staff for Ms. McLeod, as well as in contracted experts that help to support our efforts, those are all excellent investments, and I'll encourage our board members to share that as we are the liaison between the system and the community to help justify some of the expenses that we incur. The alternative for not making that investment are incredible losses in court cases and years and years and years of paying for student care that the courts will impose without consideration. So I just can't say enough about our special education department as well as our legal staff and the good job that they're doing.
Thank you, Mr. Holliday. Good. Anybody else on that? Number 15, general discussion by board members. Does anybody have anything? I have one item, but I can wait.
got one piece of good news, if y'all want to hear it. Ms. Moore, you'll be especially interested in this. The State Department of Education has awarded us another preschool program that they're taking away from another system because of not enough people to do it, and it will go to Kittrell. A few years ago, Kittrell had a Title I preschool. Kittrell has around the 60 to 70% free reduced, and so remember, to qualify, the state funds pretty much all of that program, with the exception kind of furniture and things that we have to do. So it looks like Kittrell will get a pre-K program back.
That's awesome. I know they're going to be thrilled. Do they already know?
They do today, I think. We let them know today, so.
I want to take the opportunity to thank my fellow board members as well as just countless people within our system for support during my campaign for state representative. It did not turn out the way that maybe we wanted for the advocacy for public education and turning a vote for the issue of vouchers. But I certainly learned a lot from the experience, and will continue to ring the bell that public education needs to be the priority. It is the standard that our state constitution requires, equal access to an adequate and equitable public education, and that vouchers are a misguided idea toward that. We're going to continue to work hard on that, and though I was disappointed, I enjoyed August 5th through the 7th an organization called First Priority that covered all of our schools, all 48 of our schools, with community-minded prayer services. Before our system really got going, they went to each one of the campuses and gathered together members of the community. I was able to attend 6 of those, and they were just extraordinary. To find members of the community come together with just such an expression of support. Support, of course, for the students, prayers for safety, prayers for commitment to the educational process, but prayers for our teachers and for our administrators, for people here at the central office, for wisdom and decision-making, and even an occasional prayer for a board member. It was a great weekend of experience, and as it comes around again next year, I would encourage my fellow board members to pay attention and catch one of those opportunities. It was really an uplifting experience.
Thank you, Mr. Holliday, and thank you for your efforts, and also always in promoting public schools. Anybody else have anything? I've got a little something.
A couple of things, Mr. Blair, if you don't mind. Mr. Fred Blair was kind enough to come down here some months ago and talk to us about the summer programs for cafeterias and whatnot. And I believe that we were the Kittrell reference a minute ago reminded me that, and he did, in fact. That's federal money, I believe, and that was reinstated at Kittrell this summer, and I appreciate him following through on that. And it was extremely successful. They had a lot of children eat every single day. Also, in reference to something Mr. Holliday said about the elections, we've got another election coming up. If you've been hiding under a rock and we're not aware of that. And I would just encourage the general public, particularly in the local races for senator and representative, to look and see where the money is coming from to finance a lot of because a lot of it is from out of state. A lot of it is from out of state. And why? I'd like that answered. Why would a representative in Tennessee or a senator be accepting contributions from somebody far away? I don't understand the interest that they would have in that. And I'll let you decide yourself, but that'll be well publicized in the next 3 months. And Nashville will be covered up with lobbyists for the next 6 months if, in favor of vouchers, I'm certain, and maybe other things as well. But it's the battle, and Mr. Holliday just said that, I'm sure Mr. Hodge will concur with this, we're going to have to fight it again and again and again and again until we either lose or they give up. And I see no giving up on the part of pro-voucher folks right now.
Well, when you spend millions of dollars promoting an item like they have, there's probably not much quit in them because they've already made a substantial investment.
Yes, they have. They're invested in the process, and it looks like to me it's going to continue. We shall see.
Ms. Moore?
It's my understanding from some people that I read into at Legislative Plaza today that these pro-voucher groups from out of state that are pouring all these dollars into our local campaigns, even this past election, this August election, hit even, I don't want to use the word lower level, but for instance, the Williamson County School Board race, there were 7 open seats. My understanding is that there was over $750,000 from a PAC put together to fund campaigns for school board members that they hope are going to take a pro-voucher position.
They've actually changed their methodology a little because they have to report, I think, to the comptroller how much they receive for these. So what some of these PACs are doing now, they're doing the campaigning themselves and paying for it against a particular candidate or for a candidate. And that way, the candidate does not have to...
Doesn't take the money.
Doesn't take the money, but it's just an end around for the same purpose. So it's politics.
Elections are going in two opposite directions, and they should really be reversed. More and more money is being spent, and less people are voting. Should be opposite of that.
Yeah.
And it's not, and it's what she just said. It's dangerous. I mean, it's seriously dangerous, and not just in education issues either, but a lot of areas.
Anybody else? Mr. Clardy and I met with individuals with the Head Start program. If you recall, at John Coleman Elementary, if you're facing the old structure, there were, Mr. Clardy, is there 3 modulars there? And we discussed the possibility of them removing those modular buildings and moving them into a section of John Coleman Elementary, which would, be a safety factor for those children that they serve, and would repurpose that facility in that aspect. Mr. Clardy, if you'd like to jump in here at any time.
Well, one thing that it would do for us is get rid of those portables up front, give us more area for playground up there closer to the new building. It would also take part of the load off of us on the upkeep of the old building. There's also some plans that we have been throwing around here for putting hands-on science over there. We've taken several places over in Walter Hill, and a whole wing of that school has been used for that for several years. Recently, we loaded a bunch of the materials up that's used for that and have it stored in trailers out there, tractor trailer type trailers, and have plans of moving that over to John Coleman, plus moving the staff over there and moving that whole program over there to free up the rest of that wing at Walter Hill. We've also talked to the nurses and talked about putting a nurse's station up there with an office, so, with a couple rooms of that, so they can do training on that end of the county, so a lot of those people don't have to drive all the way down here. We currently have a maintenance portable over at Smyrna Primary. We'd like to get rid of that, so we'd like to take one of those rooms and the existing storage building that maintenance built out there and use that for maintenance on the north end of the county instead of the Smyrna Primary School area. Then we have also talked about food services having a test kitchen there, using that kitchen that is there now to test out new products, see if they can, that it works out well before they start trying to feed it. So that is pretty much 5 different groups of people, including the Head Start would take one entire side of that. As you know, it's kind of a horseshoe shape there with the offices in front. And then the nurses, maintenance, and hands-on science taking the other side of that building. So there's a lot of things that we're looking at. And of course, I realize that, we do want to hear from the board on that through Mr. Odom when we get ready to maybe implement some of this stuff. The Head Start folks, we haven't talked about any rent. Currently, they're sitting on the site right now. We don't charge them any kind of rent or anything. We're just glad to have that service there close for that neighborhood up there.
If it pleases the board, Ms. Michaels, if we could, can we move this item to the agenda tomorrow night? And if it pleases the board, I would like the board to give Mr. Clardy the opportunity to negotiate with Head Start to see if we can work out an agreement that would be beneficial to both the board and to Head Start to get rid of those trailers and get them inside brick and mortar. And also give us line of sight from our new facility to the playground. Is that basically correct, Mr. Clark?
Yes, sir. That's correct.
If it's okay with the board and everybody shaking their head, Ms. Michaels, if you'll add that as an agenda item. So,
Most people may not realize that when we do food service, talking about the test thing, we have to bid the food products out that match federal requirements, protein levels, and that sort of thing. And so companies and vendors come out with different products and offer it to us. So they do pretty much every time when we bid this have to go through a process of preparing it, then analyze it, taste testing it before we push it out to the student. So we kind of jump from school to school and try to do that. So I had not heard a lot about that, but that's a pretty good idea when you're serving over 6 million meals that you're trying to deal with these different product offerings.
Mr. Odom, I know the head count is kind of fluid right now.
I'm gonna give it to you tomorrow night.
Okay.
We were still looking today. It's somewhere growth over the same period last year. It's still running over 1,100, but there's still about 200 no-shows and miscounts. But it's going to be, my guess, somewhere between 1,000 and 1,100 is my guess for this year. So, but they're here, But again, it's such a fluid situation that the state has not, as of yet. There's sometime this week they're supposed to read individual school districts' data into the EIS system, Education Information System, and that allows us to look at every other public school in Tennessee. So if John Doe is moved, and we don't know where he is, but his house is empty, if he moves somewhere in Tennessee, we can put in John Doe's name and say, oh, you made it to Chattanooga or somewhere. Then we can go ahead and withdraw him. But the schools haven't had that yet because the state had not read it in until someday this week. We don't know exactly when, but it's a process every year with it's 43,700 or something like that.
Wow. Lot of children.
Mr. Chairman,
Holiday?
pardon me, I think maybe tonight is a better night to share one other word of concern. Just in the last 2 or 3 weeks, our system has had a couple of occasions of challenging journalism. And it has not been in any one particular place, but the careful efforts of James Evans and his department have given accurate information, and yet that accurate information has not always made it into the press coverage. And we certainly appreciate all of the ways. I'm thinking of the article that was there about the John Coleman Elementary teachers going out and making house calls. It was a great, positive, uplifting, word to the community. But there have been some occasions here recently where we've worked very hard, and it doesn't discriminate, be it radio, television, or newsprint. There have been some challenges. We are a big system. We are a strong influence in education, and it may be that we are targeted from time to time. But Mr. Evans is always there and available to share accurate information about what is actually occurring. We'll be careful, and it may take us a little bit of time to get that accurate information back to those media sources. But if they'll work with us, we certainly would like to share that accurate information and let the community continue to celebrate the things that we accomplish.
Thank you, Mr. Holliday. That's appropriate because tonight we'd like to welcome the new education writer for the DNJ, Mary Reeves, with us tonight. So welcome, and you can put a face with all these nameplates. And again, welcome, and we pray you'll have a ton of uplifting academic success and a few athletic ones also. So again, welcome to covering us.
I hope Mr. Holliday doesn't mind an addendum to what he just said. But I wasn't going to mention this, but now that he has, it probably needs to be said. If a parent or a stakeholder, if you will, has got what they perceive as a serious problem, and if they think it's one, then it likely probably needs some attention from somebody. The solution, which we as a board absolutely want to reach, does not start with Channel 2. It doesn't start there. And it doesn't start with anonymous reports to all the news media to see which one will pick it up. And we had one of those recently that was that the lady that submitted it thinks it was anonymous. It was not. And it was submitted to both the newspapers that are here in this room tonight, and they did not print it, which was exactly right. It was anonymous, and it was also wrong. All of it was wrong, and all that does is damage what we as a board and what we want to do, and that is to solve problems, if there is one. And the way you solve those is, I think, and Mr. Sandvik has done a tremendous job with that, with talking to our booster clubs. That's how we want to solve problems. Reasonable talk, discourse, debate, solutions, options. It doesn't start somewhere in Nashville with a tiny little bus problem, for instance. I mean, and I'm being too wordy with this, and I apologize. I think in the course of the first week or so, Mr. Snell's here, but I'm not even going to ask him. He deals with this stuff every single day. I think we had 3 or 4 problems that at least were reported that had to be dealt with and were dealt with almost immediately. In the first 2 or 3 days, Davidson County had 1,000 according to Channel 2, that I just said to ignore, 1,000 students that were not picked up, went to the wrong place, were at the wrong bus stop, didn't know where to go. Now, they have twice as many students as we do, and they have 1,000 problems. We've got, what'd you say, 43.7? We have 4 or 5 very minor problems. So hats off to Mr. Snell and his staff and people and bus drivers. But if we've got problems, I think we could approach them in a more reasonable manner than anonymous reports and going to the, if I had a problem, when my daughters went to Riverdale High School, if I had a problem, I'd call a teacher. I didn't call the director of schools. First of all, he's not going to know that my daughter had a problem. He's going to just have to back it up and start where I should have started. Doesn't that make sense? And then assistant principal, maybe principal, if you don't get action, okay. We got great experts. I'm being too wordy, Mr. Chairman. I apologize.
Thank you, Mr. Jordan. Anybody else?
Mr. Snell's in the process. They're looking at counts and bus counts, so it's not uncommon. This time of year, we look about changing routes, making extra runs, that sort of thing. I don't need to speak for you, but your staff is very active in looking at numbers, loads, size of students, and all those things. Anything, if you want to say anything, very good about that.
Well, we get several complaints about overcrowded buses, and when we get those, then we go get video. We call the bus driver and ask the questions that need to be asked. We find that sometimes there's going to need to be changes made. We also find sometimes that somebody doesn't like where they're having to sit, or that they're having to sit, you know, on one side of the bus or the other, so they complain to their parents. And therefore, we just have to take care of those and explain what's going on. But at this time of the year, we deal with that on a daily basis. And it's not unusual.
Okay, we'll be back here tomorrow evening, and anything else before we go? Be safe, and we'll reconvene tomorrow. We stand adjourned.